Welcome to part 6 in my 9-part series on learning to juggle. In this episode, we'll be looking at clubs, knives, torches, and generally all things that spin. Juggling clubs are the most basic spinning object that most jugglers will learn, but any spinning object is learned using the same basic techniques. You throw from the handle end and attempt to create a controlled number of spins, then catch the handle once again. Just like with a ball, you want to spend some time to get to know your prop. Clubs have many interesting and unique properties. They can be flipped, they can be thrown, they can be rolled, they can be moved in many different ways, and it can be a great advantage later when coming up with tricks to have played around with the shape and the physics of the object. There are many tricks that can be done by catching the wrong end, but for learning basic juggling of a club, you'll want to catch the same end every time, in the same place. Start by finding a good place to hold the club. Towards the top end of the handle, it can be slightly too difficult because the spin becomes faster. You don't want to hold it too far towards the end of the club, as when throwing, this will create a very floaty spin. This can be useful when learning higher numbers, and some people do like the feel of reaching right down to the end of the club, especially for some flourishes. But for most beginning jugglers, somewhere around the middle of the handle is best. Faster towards the top, slower towards the end. The key with learning to juggle clubs is the same as with learning to juggle any prop or any other trick that we've covered so far. You start off with one, and then you build it up until you are comfortable and confident. Try to get your throws to the same height each time, and watch to make sure that your hand and arm are moving downwards with each throw and up as you release. This creates a nice, even technique. As before, with one ball, getting the first throw down perfectly is something that can take years of practice. Many jugglers will move on to juggling 2 clubs. However, in my view, this is unnecessary, as you already know the basic pattern you'll be learning, the cascade. There's no need to relearn the pattern all over again. What you want is to learn how to control a spinning object in the midst of a standard 3-object cascade. Once you feel comfortable with one club, it's a good idea to work on 2 balls and 1 club. This is easier for most people than working on 2 clubs and 1 ball, and working on 2 balls and 1 club will help isolate the difference between the spinning and the non-spinning objects in this pattern. Continue to practice 2 balls and 1 club until you feel comfortable integrating this pattern with a spinning object. You'll find then that moving on to juggling 3 clubs is not an enormous step more difficult. The biggest problems people will have with this step is actually trying to start juggling 3 clubs from a 2-club hold. There are 2 main grips. The first is called the standard grip. You place 1 club in the palm of your hand and close your thumb over it to hold it in place. You then place the other club over top using the fingers to hold it. You can place a finger in between or just use all your fingers to grip that club. The club that you're gripping with your fingers will be your leading club and will start the pattern. The second grip is called a circus grip and is more useful for multiplexes. You place the club as you did before at a slightly different angle, and the second club is placed so that it is hooked underneath the other club. The leading club is released from somewhat underneath the second club. I find most jugglers prefer standard grip to begin with. It may be useful to start your grips with just 2 clubs, but again, it is probably not necessary to relearn the basic two-object pattern with your two clubs. Once you know how to release, you can begin to try juggling 3 clubs. You already know the pattern you'll be using, the rhythm you'll be using, and how to throw a spinning object properly in the midst of that pattern. But it can still be daunting to try and juggle all 3 objects without them flying in every direction. Relax your body and make sure each throw is relaxed. If you're tense because you're worried about dropping, hitting things around you, or hitting yourself, learning will be much more difficult. So try and find a comfortable space to practice and start by working on those releases. Once you can release and catch decently, it's time to start gently going into a full 3-club cascade. You may start by throwing 3 throws, 1, 2, 3, or even up, 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 and then catching again. You may also want to start juggling immediately and see how long you can go without breaking the correct rhythm, spin, or height. The key now is to continually practice juggling those 3 clubs for as long as you can in different ways, getting used to the rhythm and continuing the pattern. Keep track of any improvements. The next challenge will be stopping. Learning to stop or catch at the end of a 3-club sequence is still a challenge for many jugglers, not just beginners. The key is to catch back into the position that you were most comfortable with in the beginning. For example, I like to catch into a standard grip at the end. There's really nothing else to juggling clubs, knives, or any other object. With the correct supervision and with practice, almost any spinning object that you can easily hold can be juggled. To juggle torches, the same rules apply as juggling clubs. You want to get used to the spin so you can easily control it, whether it's on fire or not. You're still catching the same end, and if your throws are correct, you should never worry about catching the wrong end. You're less likely to hurt yourself on the flame as you are on the hot metal parts that attach the wicking to the club. And if you do touch the wrong end of a torch, simply drop it quickly. Or if you're worried that you have thrown it incorrectly, step out of the way so you can stand at a safe distance. This isn't a video though about fire juggling. If you want to get into torch juggling, the basis is a strong control of the 3-club cascade. The same goes with knives or any other rotating object. In the next episode, we'll be introducing some basic tricks with juggling clubs once you feel comfortable with the 3 spinning cascade.